I used to think making condiments from scratch was complicated until I tried it. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make homemade sauces from scratch that taste better and cost less than store-bought. Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Willow Creek Homestead. My name is Kenzie if you're new around here. And for today's video, we are going to be canning up some homemade condiments and dipping sauces together. Now, some of these I have done previously, some of them I have not, but I thought it would be a really fun activity for all of us to do today, and we will get to taste some new recipes together. So on the list of everything that we're going to be doing, we have Dijon mustard, barbecue sauce, onion relish, and a sweet garlic and chili sauce. I thought that sounded so incredible. All the rest of them sound really good too, but that one is the one I am most excited for to have on hand for Asian cuisines or dipping sauces for homemade crab rangoons, you name it. It'll be super fun to have. So I'm going to go ahead and get out 2 saucepans and let's get started. Okay, so the onion relish and the sweet garlic chili sauce are the two that take the least amount of time. Basically, we just combine all of the ingredients together. So I went ahead and pulled out 2 stock pots. We'll do the onion relish here and the sweet garlic chili sauce here. So let's do this one first. And last night I did go ahead and cut up a bunch of onions just to go ahead and make our lives a little bit easier this morning. So you will need 2.5 cups of onions. And then it looks like we need 1.5 cups of vinegar, white distilled, make sure it's 5%. And then we also need 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and make sure it is non-iodized. And then the recipe also calls for 1/2 teaspoon of mustard seeds, but it did say in the recipe that that is optional. So if you don't have them, don't worry about it. It does not call in the recipe to add garlic, but I am just going to go ahead and put in a smidge bit of garlic salt. And then the last step is just to get your burner going on a low, and we're going to let this come up to a slow simmer for probably 15 to 20 minutes and let all of the sugar dissolve. Now, like most of you, I have heard of dill pickle relish because we make that every single year. I know a lot of people do zucchini relish, but I've never heard of anybody making onion relish, and I thought that this would be incredible on burgers. So I am really excited to see how this turns out and what the flavors are like. And if you have ever made this before, let me know down below, because whenever I came across this, I was like, that sounds so incredibly good. So I am very excited to give it a try. Okay, so while we're waiting on our onion relish to get up to temperature and get fully dissolved, let's start on our sweet chili garlic sauce. So you are going to treat this kind of like a jam. We're going to throw all of the ingredients in here before we add the sugar and then get it brought up to a boil. And then once it is at a boil, we will add the sugar. So it looks like we need to start with 6 cups of vinegar. And I will warn you, friends, anytime that you have vinegar on your stove that you're bringing up to temperature, make sure you have the vent on or a window open because your house will stink for hours after doing this. And then it calls for 1/2 cup of chili flakes. I'm just going to go ahead and use the rest of the chili flakes that's in here. I don't like things super spicy. Actually, you know what, guys? I might stop right there and leave that much just so I don't overpower this. My husband likes spicy stuff, but I do not, and I already feel like that's a ton. So we are going to call that portion good. And then we need to add 1/2 cup of garlic, and I'm not going to measure that out either. So we'll just do like 4, or actually, you know what? We'll just use the rest of this entire jar because I had about half the jar left anyway, so that will work out perfect. And I would recommend that you use the minced or like fresh cut up garlic instead of like garlic salt or garlic powder because it just makes the sauce look really pretty. Then we need 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we need roughly 1.5 teaspoons of ground ginger, so maybe like that much. And then we need 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. Okay, and then the next ingredient is clear gel. You can also use pectin. If you use the clear gel, make sure it is cook type, and this is what's going to give it that thickening agent. So that's why I said we kind of have to treat this like a jam and add this first and then our sugar later. And this is a 1.5 tablespoon measure. So there is 3 of those. And then the next step is just to get everything brought up to a boil before we add in our sugar. Okay, so here is what our onion relish is looking like. And you basically just want to cook this for 10 to 15 minutes until your onions are softened. And as you can see, they are starting to get a little bit softer. So I would say probably like 4-ish more minutes and these are done. And then just still waiting for this to get brought up to a boil. The clear gel did cloud the liquid in here just a bit. And online, it did kind of have that appearance. So if you add clear gel instead of pectin and notice that it kind of gives it that coloring, that is totally normal. Okay, friends, so we're really close to a boil, but this is pretty thin and I'm scared that it's going to start splashing everywhere. So I am just going to go ahead and add the sugar and then we will bring it back up to a boil. So we need 6 cups. There's 3, 4. I'm going to go ahead and give that a little stir really quickly just to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. 5, 6. This smells absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to try this. So now it just needs to boil again and thicken up for just a bit, and this one is done. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys where we're at really quickly. This has been boiling away, and look at the consistency on this. That is like perfect dipping sauce. Now, it did take just a bit to get it up to a boil and get it to this point, but just keep boiling it, and I promise it does eventually thicken up. Okay, so I got both of these off the stove. I have not tried them yet, so I want to do a little taste with you guys and see what we think. Now, the sweet garlic chili sauce, I have made something similar to this, but the other recipe did not call for clear gel or pectin, so it was very liquidy, but whenever I came across this one and it called for that, I thought that the consistency of a dipping sauce would be much more on point. So let's see what we think. Oh yeah, that is good. That is really good, you guys. Wow. The recipe had like crab rangoons on the side as a dipping sauce for those, and I think that will be absolutely fantastic. So now let's try the onion relish. And you guys know me, give me all the onion recipes. I love onions. That's so good. Absolutely fantastic. So I did go ahead and pull out several different sizes of jars. I thought these littler ones might be a better portion for the onion relish and maybe these bigger ones for the barbecue sauce. I don't know. I'm just going to use what I have. I have some more over there too. But for now, let's get some of this sweet garlic chili sauce going. And I'm not going to put the lids on any of these because these are also really hot. If you go to fill up your jars and you plan on doing like a big batch, like I'm going to get the barbecue sauce and the mustard done and then can everything all at one time. So if you do that and you put your lids on, be aware that the temperature of these is very hot and it can cause your jars to seal. So if you're going to wait and do multiple recipes and process them at the same time, I would just recommend leaving the lids off until you are ready to throw them all in the canner. But for the onion relish and the sweet garlic chili sauce, it is 1/4 of an inch of headspace for both. I'm actually really excited for today, friends. All of my manure for the garden is supposed to be being delivered today. And that's a question that I get from you guys all the time is what do I use on my rows? So the first time that I ever filled my rows in, I used composted cow manure, and I just felt like it brought in a lot of weeds unnecessarily. So I switched to composted sheep manure, and I get it locally by the dozer load. Like they bring me an entire truck and freaking dozer load full of it for $200. So really good deal, really good price, and it's just really high quality compost. So if you are able to find anybody locally in your area that offers sheep manure instead of cow manure, I highly recommend. But once I get that, I mean, it's been so nice out this time of year. We've been in the 50s to 60s all week. So my butt is going to get out in the garden and start doing a ton of prep. And I'm going to take you guys along for it. So hopefully the weather cooperates next week. And that is next on our list to do. A little bit overwhelming because there is a lot to do. I do plan on laying landscape fabric throughout all of my walkways. I don't know if I'll get to laying down gravel this year or not, but I definitely want to get all of the landscape fabric in the walkways because last year we just had so much weed pressure. It was just really exhausting going out there weed eating and, you know, trying to keep up with it. So I'm hoping we can kind of minimize that a bit so that gardening becomes a really enjoyable experience again, because last year, right around like the June, July area where it really started to get hot, we just had so many weeds, you guys, and it was a little bit of a jungly mess out there. You guys probably remember. So lots of work ahead, but I think it will help us tremendously in the long run. I still can't believe I've never tried onion relish before. That seems like it would be just a very obvious thought because we love relish, but I have never even heard of it. So super glad that we gave that a try because now it's just another recipe to add to our arsenal for summer preservation projects. Whenever we need another way to preserve onions, we can make onion relish. If any of you guys have me on Facebook, you probably already saw, but my local Amish store had a sale on water bath canners the other day whenever I went to the Dutchman store for $9. $9. For the ones that usually come with the rack and you see me use all the time, they're probably like $40-ish on Amazon. So I grabbed 2 so fast it wasn't even funny. I have never come across such a good sale. So I was able to get another big water bath canner to add to our arsenal, which is really nice. So now I have 2 pressure canners and 2 water bath canners, which you don't need a water bath canner to water bath things. You can use just like your regular stock pots, but sometimes it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to add like the washcloth down on the bottom if you don't have the racks for it. So I was super, super stoked that I found that deal, you guys. Oop, got a little bit too much in that one. And then with the onion relish, it's the same thing, 1/4 of an inch of headspace. But I would recommend, like I'm doing, just packing the onions in first and then doing the liquid over top. And my hands are clean. Don't mind me. I just want to make sure that I get the head spacing on these right, because these jars are much smaller and it is a little bit more difficult. I didn't think that what I had was going to be enough to get a full canner load going, but actually this is more than plenty. So we will go ahead and get the lids and bands on all of this and get it loaded up. And then these will be done processing by the time that we get the barbecue sauce and mustard done. So I'm just pulling out some of my canning lids. These are Forjars lids. There is a link for a savings code down below. You guys know I love Forjars. I'm going to go ahead and get some extras pulled out over here, and then we will start wiping down all of our rims. And because each of these recipes has sugar in it, make sure you clean the rims really, really good. You definitely do not want sugar stuck on it. And I did kind of debubble these as I went along with my butter knife, so I won't have to do that now. I can't get over how pretty these look in the jar. These are absolutely stunning, and I am so happy with the consistency. And then just remember, your lids go on fingertip tight. That just means that whenever you feel resistance, you stop twisting. Because if you put these on too tight, it can cause your lids to buckle, and then you won't get a good seal either. Now I'm just getting everything loaded in the canner, and it all needs to process for 10 minutes. So the next thing that we're going to get started on is the Dijon mustard. Now, I have never made mustard before, okay? So I have the new ball book of canning right here. I can't put this on the screen for you just for copyright reasons, but it will be found on page 190. I will also try to find the webpage version of the recipe and link it down below for you. So prep for this started last night. So basically all we do is you chop up your onions and you combine them in a stock pan with your Pinot Grigio, your white wine vinegar, salt, garlic, cloves. I went ahead and just bought them pre-minced. You can chop them fresh if you would like, along with salt, black peppercorns, and rosemary. And then once all of that is brought up to a boil for probably 10 to 15-ish minutes, you're going to go ahead and strain out all of the large particles and keep the liquid, which is what we combine with our mustard seeds and our mustard powder. Now, this has had to ferment at room temperature for 24 hours, and it says you can go up to 48. So we are just going to try it at the 24-hour mark, and you'll notice that when you do it, everything is very, very liquidy, but as it continues to sit on your counter, it thickens up a lot. So it says that we can need up to 2.5 cups of water. This is a 1.5 cup measurer, and I'm just going to go ahead and slowly start incorporating some water in here. You could use a food processor or a little handheld mixer like I have here, and we are going to go ahead and start getting this blended. And every single time that we blend, it will break down the mustard seeds. If it's too thick, we will add more water. Now, I'm not a mustard person. I like mustard, but I don't know a lot about it. My husband really, really enjoys mustard. Now, I think your traditional like stone ground mustard has the bigger chunks of mustard seeds in them. So if you didn't want to blend this completely smooth, I think it would be considered your stone ground. But we are going to blend this completely smooth and make it just a standard smooth Dijon mustard. Okay, I am going to go ahead and add just a little bit more water because that is really, really thick. I mean, you want it thick, but you also want it like spreadable, you know what I mean? So I think maybe that much water, I would say about 1.5 cups is what I'm going to use. But if you need more, feel free to add it in. And that is about perfect consistency. It's not super, super thick, but it's not super, super thin. I didn't know how many jars I was going to need, so I just went ahead and pulled out 4. But I do want to give this just a little taste. Like I said, I've never made this before, so wish me luck. Oh my God, you guys, that is so strong. Oh, that's strong. I was not expecting that. It's really good though. Like it has really good mustard flavor. I almost feel like it needs like a little bit of salt or something though. So I am going to go ahead and add it. It called for 1 teaspoon of salt, but sometimes I feel like salt brings out the flavors of things. So we are going to add just a little bit more of that in. Gosh, I was not expecting it to be that strong. Like this is really strong mustard. And I am going to go ahead and blend this just a little bit more. I can taste the grit in my mouth and I want it to be very, very smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and immersion blend it one more time. Okay, friends, that is much better. I think I just didn't blend it up enough and I bit into like all of those mustard seeds all at one time. So I blended it until it's completely smooth and added just a smidge bit more salt and it's perfect. Actually, very, very good. I think I'm just so used to like the store-bought mustard. It is a different flavor. It's very strong. I will say that. So if you've ever made mustard before and you have like run into that where it's really, really strong in terms of like flavor, let me know how you combat that, or maybe that's just normal. I have no idea, but I know my husband's gonna like it regardless. So it's still a win. And on other things, I think it'll be really, really good. Just by itself, by the mouthful, that was probably not a good idea. And then it looks like for the mustard, we leave 1/4 of an inch of headspace as well and process for 10 minutes. And maybe that strong flavor will subside the longer it's on the shelf. I don't know. Maybe it needs just a little bit more time to like even out. Like I said, never made it before. It is entirely an experiment, so we will see how it plays out. I think that's going to be perfect though. We are going to get exactly 4 of these, I believe. If not, pretty close. And then maybe we can just put 1 of them in the fridge if I can't fill this last one up. Okay, so I'm just using the last little bit in this jar to kind of fix the head spacing on my other 3. We did not get exactly 4, but that's okay. I feel like that first bite gave me immediate heartburn. I don't know if you're supposed to try that like this or what, but I feel like that was a bad idea. Hopefully it goes down a bit on the flavor because that is really, really strong. The only way I can describe that is biting into wasabi, like a big mouthful of wasabi. Like all the heat just went right to my head. Okay, and then these are all done. We will get them processed along with our barbecue sauce as soon as we get the other stuff out of the canner. So the next thing that we're gonna do is the barbecue sauce. But friends, I had to research that for a second because I was like, what in the world is going on with that mustard? Because it's so incredibly strong. And it does not say in the ball book that you can do this, but online it said that you can to kind of mellow out that boldness of the mustard flavor. So it said that we can put the jars in the refrigerator for about a week and then retry them, which I will have my husband do the next time. And if the flavor is where we like it, we can can it up then. So I do think I'm going to wait on canning that mustard batch just so that the flavors can maybe mellow out just a little bit, because if I can those and that's how they turn out, I'm going to be really disappointed. So we're going to do that and see how it works. But let's get started on the barbecue sauce. I will leave all of the ingredients and everything down below like I mentioned. But the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and get some tomato sauce in our big stock pot. Barbecue sauce is so incredibly easy to make. It's something that I make regularly all the time for us. And I always follow the same recipe. It's the Papa's Bywater barbecue sauce. You guys have seen me make this many times on my channel. And what I love about it is that it's a very, very consistent recipe. The only thing I will say is that it calls for 8 cups of ketchup. So if you follow that, your barbecue sauce is going to be very, very sweet. So the way that I like to combat that is I add half tomato sauce, half ketchup, instead of doing the 8 cups of ketchup total. I find that 4 of these and 4 cups of ketchup gives me a really, really good flavor profile. Because too much ketchup, I feel like definitely can screw up your barbecue sauce. And then we're just going to add this entire thing to our stock pot. And then we also need a bunch of brown sugar. Ketchup is something that I have never canned from scratch. I just find that it's cheap and relatively easy to buy. I'm not a huge fan of the ingredients, obviously, but maybe one day we can take on that project together. I have tried to do it in the past. I just find that it's really, really hard to cook down to give it that really thick consistency. But I don't know, maybe we'll try it again together in the future. Okay, and then we're going in with some garlic salt and onion powder. Now this calls for apple cider vinegar, but I do not like apple cider vinegar, so I am just using white distilled, a little splash of lemon juice. And I went ahead and bought some Dijon mustard in the event that we couldn't use the one that I canned up. And thank God I did, because we would have not been able to use that. We also need a little bit of Worcestershire. And then the recipe does not call for it, but I am going to go ahead and add just a little bit of molasses. I like the color that it gives my barbecue sauce, so I'm not measuring that out, maybe half a cup or so. And then you will notice there's a lot of other seasonings that it calls for in the recipe that I am not going to add into this. You can play around with the seasoning portion as much as you would like to. I just find that some of those seasonings give the barbecue sauce a very wonky flavor that I'm not a huge fan of. So that is where we are going to start, and then we will do a taste test and reevaluate and see what else it needs. But for the time being, this just needs to cook on the stove and thicken up. I forgot I did go ahead and buy some liquid smoke. So this is mesquite liquid smoke for barbecue and marinades, and we're just going to add a little splash of that as well. All right, friends, the barbecue sauce is finally done. It has been going for probably 2-ish hours now. And as you can see, the color is a very, very dark red, and this is very, very thick. Now, depending on how thick you want your barbecue sauce, you can cook it longer, you can cook it shorter, doesn't really matter. I go for kind of like a medium consistency so I can use it for marinades and also for dipping sauces. So let's start getting our jars filled up. And this is 1/4 of an inch of headspace. I think I said that it processes for 10 minutes. It's actually 15 minutes. And I pulled out several different sizes, including some pint jars, because if I do marinades, oftentimes I will do like a big package of chicken or something at a time. And I find that that portion is a little bit better for that. Whereas these smaller jars are better for just like single portions or dipping. This time was my first time using that liquid smoke, but I heard several other people say that it was a really good addition in barbecue sauce. So I wanted to give it a try, and you can taste it really good in this. Like the flavor is amazing. I did go ahead and just add a little bit more molasses and brown sugar. You can kind of play around with the ratios as you get it going and as it's thickening up. I do advise you to give it one final taste and make sure it's where you want it before you go ahead and jar it up. But those are the 2 additional things that I added, and it turned out perfect. Do you guys have anything planned for Valentine's Day? My husband and I are going back to eat all-you-can-eat crab. We're going to turn into a freaking crab at this point, but that is like our favorite place to go. If you watch my birthday vlog, we went to Riverside in that video too. And it's just so cheap. It's $40 for all you can eat crab legs. Plus they have like 6 other buffets as well. It's like the best deal I've ever found for seafood. So we go there any chance or opportunity we can. All right, lids and bands are on, and now these get processed for 15 minutes. Okay, friends, so I got all the barbecue sauce out of the canner, so that is ready to go. I went ahead and pulled out the mustard just to go over it again with you. I am going to go ahead and leave it in the refrigerator for probably a solid week and then taste it again. I don't know if the mustard is a win or a loss at this point, but if it is a loss, we will use it as a learning experience and we will try something different next time. That's the thing about this, is even if the product itself is wasted, the knowledge is not wasted. So we will learn from this together, and I will give you updates on that. Again, we have all of our onion relish and the sweet garlic chili sauce done, which I am the most excited for. So I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for hanging out in the kitchen with me today. I enjoyed this thoroughly. If you go to try any of these recipes, please let me know down below. And if you have made them previously and would do something different, also please let me know. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you endlessly. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, I will see you in next week's video. Bye, friends.